Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to paint just a simple vase with flowers. So I'm starting with a black canvas because I think it's really fun to do a black canvas with when you're painting like trying to paint like a glass type look, which is really easy. And I'm mostly going to be using a square brush, a medium square brush, and a medium round brush, maybe a small round brush too. So have a couple rounds and then maybe a square. I like using the square for the glass because you could use the edges and stuff and it's fun. Now the first thing we're going to do is just place our glass, and I'm going to take that medium square brush and I'm going to use like a turquoise color. So you're using blue with a little bit of yellow and a lot of white. And it's going to give you a nice turquoise. This is going to be how I do my vase. So I'm going to go ahead and find the middle of the canvas, find the middle. And we want to come down from that a little bit and then over to the left just a little bit. And what I'm going to do is make a horizontal line that's just about an inch over from the left side. And then from there you can pull down on either side. And notice how I can make it get a little more narrow. But you can make your face however you want. It doesn't have to be this shape. So I'm just pulling down like that. And then I'm going to go to the top of the vase and then just make an arched line like that. So now you have what would be a vase. But you know what, I'm going to make it more of a straight edge. So I'm just going to pull out a little more straight here. But notice how I can just brush that into the glass. Now I'm just sort of dry brushing here where I don't have a lot of paint. And it's just picking up on the edge of the tooth of the canvas. So it's just like you're getting a little bit in there. And you can go horizontal or diagonal, but that's going to give you a good foundation for your glass vase. Now, once you have the vase, you can place your stems by using a darker shade of green. So just add more yellow to your blue and use less white. So you're still using the same three colors, but now we're going into more of a green, not so much of a turquoise. So I'm using more yellow and less white, but it's still just blue and yellow. And I'm still using the square brush. Now I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to make some stems. So from here, I'm going to pull the stems just straight into that space and coming out. So pull straight up, have some going up kind of high, have some pulling over to the right and into that space. So give yourself some fun stuff to do here. And you can make some leaves. So it makes some little surfboard shapes coming out. This is going to give you some foliage, the look of foliage. Just imagine it's like a little surfboard. Just use the corner of the brush. We can always add more stuff too. It's really fun to paint these kind of things. All right, so now we got that. Let's use our round brush to add some flowers. I'm going to go with pink. So classic flower color here. Just use some red and white mixed together and go to the tips of those stems and just make some circles. So you can start, this is kind of a fun way to make a flower. You can just start with like a little circle, lines, and then as you come out, make them thicker and then stack them like that. So you just push and release, and notice how they get a little thicker as they pull out. So they start off kind of small and then they get thicker. And you're just layering and stacking them around each other. So push and then release. Light touch, push, then release. So your line is like tapered on both sides. It's fun. And I'm just using that medium round brush. Now maybe you have like more of a bud shape, so you can just make little lines like that, where you just make like a couple little lines that come together like a closed bud. Totally fine to do that. But remember, just small little lines going in a spiral at first, and then you can push, release, to build out the other shapes. And we'll do more layers too, but this is just a really simple, super simple idea and fun thing to paint. Because I know a lot of times people are like, I don't have the time to do the painting. It's like, well, now you do. Because I'm making it so you can pop in and paint for 20 or 30 minutes and have no excuse. So little tiny circles coming together. Just imagine a little spiral with broken lines, and then you're gonna push and release. Push and release. Let them intertwine. I'm not trying to make it perfect or anything. I know my perfectionists have a hard time just doing anything because you want it to be perfect, and then when you but just try to remember that's not even really a goal here. The goal is just expression, not perfection. But we want to add, just we're going to keep doing a few more until it feels like the space is filled adequately, but not overly. You don't want it to be like cluttered to the point where you're like, I don't know, everything is just confusing. It's too cluttered. So you can add some more buds. And see how I can have some falling over here. And then notice how I can add some more red to the shapes to create another shade. So I'm going to do that to all of them. Just kind of layer over what's already there softly so that you're not completely covering all that's there. You're just adding to it. And if you need to use a smaller brush to do that, you totally can. But it just makes the colors look a little richer. It's very fun. And then you can add more white. So like the first layer we did was kind of a medium pink, and then you can notice how this is the first color I used right here, pointing at it with my brush. And then you can make this color right here that looks a little bit lighter. And then this, just using more of the pure red, is gonna be, that's what we put as our shadow. So you wanna have at least 3 shades. And that's just a simple way to start. It could even be just a pure white too. Like it doesn't have to be a shade of pink. And then you're popping it in more to the outer edges and stuff. But you just want to get a few different shades in there because that's what makes it look 3-dimensional. If you would just have one shade of pink, it becomes very flat looking. But as soon as we hit that 3 mark, it kind of makes more sense. We're like, oh, it has so much more depth now that it just has those 3 shades. Now, obviously, you could take it further. More than 3 shades is going to look even more in depth. But you don't have to take it further. You can do whatever is fun for you. But then maybe take like a smaller round brush. We want to add some highlights to the stems too. So I'm going to add more yellow and white to my green. And you want to have just layering what's there with another shade of green. Simple. Pull it all the way down into the vase. Notice I made this bud and there's no stem for it. I'm just gonna make one with that color. And you can always add more of that darker shade to it too. So you want to see a few shades, and you can do it any way you want to do it. Even put a little bit of a kind of V shape at the end of bottom of the bud, like it's being held. It's so fun. So now we have some flowers, we have the vase. So fun. But let's punch up our vase just a bit. Notice how the flowers go over the vase. We don't really want that. So the teal, I like putting the teal in first because it kind of has like a water color vibe, like which is typically you have water in a vase. But it also gives you a nice like foundation to build your stems out of if you're doing a floral bouquet. So, but to put the icing on the cake here, you want to clean your brush and go in with either pure white or just a super light shaded teal. So it's okay if it has a little bit of the teal vibes, but it should look much, much whiter than the first color we made. And then all I'm doing is painting straight across the first line, not the back line. The back line you actually want the stems to go over because it is going over them in your perspective. But the front line is actually in front of the flowers. And then you want to add to the vase on the very outer edges with some more pure, almost pure white. It can be broken. The line does not have to be solid. It actually looks a little bit better if it's not solid because then it has more of a shimmery kind of thing going on. And then do some of that dry brushing with the white over the stems, and you can kind of wiggle to make it look a little more dramatic. Just kind of give it a wiggle. And it makes it more abstract. And then you can also take some of the colors from the flowers down into the vase. So you already have the green from the stems in the vase. You have the teal to represent water. You have the white to represent like the hard edge of the glass. And you can take some of your pinks from the roses or the flowers, whatever, and just dry brush a little bit of that color into the vase. That's almost like a reflection. Just a little, you know? Just a little touch.